Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of First Impressions here at MurrOtter. I'm Matt, and today we're checking out the game Morbid, the Seven Acolytes. I've been extremely excited for this one. It comes from Still Running and Merge Games, but it's a pixel art indie isometric take on a Soulslike. And in fact, I think it's almost more of like a Bloodborne game. It has like Lovecraftian vibes, sort of like body horror, cosmic gore kind of stuff. That said, full disclosure here, I have played this a little bit already. What happened was I'm doing a full Let's Play out of this after I did my initial First Impressions video. However, the sound wasn't good enough on that one, so I wanted to redo it for you all just so it'd be a little bit easier to hear what I say, and I actually think it's a little bit better because I can give you a breakdown of what's to come later on. So just know if you keep watching the Let's Play, it will turn blind after this, but this episode now I do know what's going on. So this is the vibe of the game. As you can see, you are what's called a striver, and you are sent to try to essentially rid the world of these Gahars that have taken over. And they have infested the body of the Seven Acolytes. There's a lot of really cool lore in this game, and I did not expect that, to be perfectly honest. The Souls-like genre is a tricky one for me because I love Souls games. However, you know, a lot of times you're holding up to a standard of one of my favorite types of games. So the bar is pretty high, and that can sometimes make a good game feel less good just because of, you know, what it's being compared to. So we're going to drop that in here. Similarly to a, to be fair, I won't necessarily call it a Souls so much as a FromSoft game. It's kind of obscure, right? Like you have this inventory that you're meant to sort of sort out on your own. They do leave you these notes on the ground that tell you what to do, so you can get to your inventory by hitting select, X to attack, kind of like the signs would work in a Souls game. You can hold down, you roll and dodge and run with with your A button. And then you also have Gruel, which kind of functions as life gems did in Dark Souls 2. So you have an Estus, quote unquote. You can see it there in the bottom left on the down button. I have none yet, but we'll get them. But you can also find, you know, the Gruel, which are consumables. They don't replenish every time you rest, but they are nice, like intermediary heals if you get in a position where, you know, you don't want to use like your bigger heal for some reason, or if you're out of them, obviously would be the more obvious use. But for me, I find I use the little ones because they heal you over time when I'm not in combat, so that I leave room for the quick heals, essentially. All right, so there's our dodge roll. Just want to make sure we explore everything. Ooh, taking damage from the fish. And you'll notice when you kill things, you kind of get these lore bits. Now, I've kind of summarized the lore for you already a little bit, so I don't know if we'll necessarily dive into that. I guess we should. Because the lore is honestly one of the things that surprised me most about this. I didn't expect sort of like as comprehensive of sort of a world building as they gave you. All right, the Stone of Dibram. So now you can see that upgrade means we have a new heal. So now we have a 1 next to our what's essentially our Estus there in the bottom left. And then talk to this guy. Welcome, Striver. I'm Dallas, the last monk of Magrethius. I have been expecting you. All your predecessors have failed in their attempts to defeat the Gahars. These malevolent deities have tyrannized our realm and enslaved our people, as no one has been able to stop them. Still, the Gahars have one weakness. They can't survive without a host. They have bound their twisted minds to the flesh of their 7 mighty acolytes. Your duty is to defeat the acolytes, thus ridding the Gahars of their flesh. Shrines like the one next to me will aid you on your path. So, shrines are your bonfires. And you can see we've now got a quest list, which includes meeting Thalas. Now, notice we didn't reset yet until you meditate. And by talking to Thalas there, it just kind of, I think, is meant to demonstrate to you that that quest is now complete. And we don't have any. Meditating will refill your health and refill your Estus there in the bottom left. This is also where you can do upgrades, but that doesn't come until a lot later. I'll talk a little bit about how experience and upgrades work here in just a second. But first we're going to pillage and fight the crows. You also have a heavy attack, which you do with circle. Now notice on the left side there, my sanity has drained. It's that purple bar. You want to keep that from getting down to 0. However, full disclosure, spoilers, I don't know what happens if it gets to 0. I know it's bad. I know it affects it's sort of like a world tendency, I think. You hit lighter, enemies hit harder, there are more of them, that kind of thing. But I have yet to see it actually happen. So you'll notice we also have ammo up there in the top left. We don't have a means to shoot yet, but only Exalted may enter. And we got a new quest, which is Passage to Yortael. So let's just jump in real quick to the lore. That's all in your Morbid menagerie. So you have the 7 Acolytes. We haven't seen any. No formidable foes. We have come across this undead fish beast. Gnawed bones of a large fish reanimated by the flesh plant, also known as Madman's Moss. It's an invasive parasitic organism. Fungus-like life form can leech off any biological entity, even known to reanimate the dead with its ability to overtake and develop whole nervous systems. The infected creatures tend to display extremely aggressive behavior as the plant aims to protect its host, as well as spread to a new one. Then we've also seen the Ravenous Crow. The crows of northern Mornia, that's the area we're in now, used to have a rough time finding food during the winter. However, after the flesh plant plague began and the Madman's Moss spread across the kingdom, the crows found a new source of nourishment. The flesh plant was abundant and nutritious source of energy for the starving birds. Unfortunately, it caused the crows to grow abnormally large and develop an appetite for flesh and blood. The new breed of ravenous birds soon took over Mornia and drove most other avians to the brink of extinction. A single flock of these bloodthirsty birds is known to have taken down a whole mammoth beast. So then I'm just going to tell you about the world lore real quick, just so you have a scope of the game, and then we'll move on. When Mornia was young, they emerged from the depths of our minds. The Gahars, as we now know them, were born within our consciousness. When we first heard them whisper, offering us great power and wisdom, we knew to decline their sinister offer. However, there were some who could not resist or afford to refuse their tempting covenant. In return for the ultimate powers granted to them, these 7 individuals, one by one, agreed to serve as the Gahar's vessels, for without a host the evil deities could not survive. The Gahars bound themselves to the flesh of their 7 mighty acolytes, and through them conquered Mornia, enslaved the people, and established a tyranny never before seen. As of now, Mornia is in ruins. The Gahars are being revered as living gods, while the 7 acolytes govern the kingdom, with their monstrous minions wreaking havoc across the lands. Still, hope remains that one day a worthy striver, which is what we are, will come and slay the acolytes, thus banishing the Gahars back to where they came. So that is the general story. Alright, and then the other thing to note is you also have some like side quests that have sort of unclear goals like you would in a Souls game. Usually it's like, go kill this thing or bring me this item. But you do have to remember the NPCs you've met and then come back and check in based on your quest log at the shrines, which is nice, where unlike a Souls game, it logs, that doesn't in any way log the people you've spoken to. This will remind you at least that you've started a quest. Oh, my beloved Larsh, when will you return? That's all she says. And now we have the Longing Widow. It is important to note you do not have everything reset unless you meditate. So you can come here just to check your quest. So we know Passage to Yortael, Gate Slave Kern at the Haven of Solia lets you pass if you're exalted. We are not. Find out what happened to Larsh Borga in the Cursed Hamlet and help the Longing Widow in the Haven of Solia. So that at least tells you that, kind of where you'll find it and what you need to do, which is even less obscure than I thought, actually. I didn't know it gave you that much detail in that quest log there. I don't think I had actually read that. Notice your stamina takes a really long time to start regenerating up there in the left once you've spent it, like a whole second at least. So it's not just about your management of your bar itself, but understanding how long it's going to take for it to start filling back up. All right, we got to explore everything. You do have a parry. You got to hit it though. You got to wait till you see the sparks. See that? Not that one. Not that one. That one. And that's with your left bumper. There is no key rebinding at this point, at least as far as I'm aware. Now they could patch that out at any moment. Oh, fuck. That guy got me. Now notice I took a gruel there so I could save our bigger heal. Alright. We're hurting. There's another gruel on the ground. Oh, roll! Now, one of my favorite elements of this game that really surprised me was the lore. I just think it's created a really cool world. So these little globs, you have to find them. They'll be hidden in the area, and they'll unlock gates like that that impede your path. But the other thing I really like that it captures about a Souls game, in my opinion, is the exploration. They do a really good job of rewarding you for looking at nooks and crannies, but also kind of like sometimes teasing you on the side of a screen when you're in one area that there's an item in another, and to backtrack or to keep an eye out when you sort of advance to the next area, and then giving you sometimes really good items. Calming capsules are used to refill your sanity bar. Again, don't know what happens when it fills. I guess you can just use it to make sure that you're hitting enemies hard enough. Now, there aren't like damage indicators when you hit enemies, but you will notice if you let your sanity get too low, you will not hit as hard. So it is smart to try to fill it up when you can. I kind of ride that line pretty low in the game until like it's flashing and warning me that I'm, losing my sanity. But it's definitely smart to keep it topped off if you just want to make sure that the game is not as hard on you as it could be. So there is a sneak, which is basically going to let you get the closest thing approaching a backstab in this game, because you can get behind an enemy and start off with your special attack, which is often enough to one-shot enemies and just make your life a little bit easier as a result. Not sure what this one tells me. Yeah, see, it's almost kind of suggesting here that's the way to go. I use my special attack a lot, though. I mean, it's my heavy. It's a risk-reward, though, because if you get hit during your wind-up, you will not complete the attack. So you can't just kind of power your way through it. But it does hit for more than, like, double, what a normal attack does. So it's often worth it. Think. Okay. So then we'll come on up here. This is where you're supposed to learn to parry. We did that a little early. We're overachievers. Now, one thing about chests that's a little interesting, they seem like they're a big reward, right? You find a chest, but they actually respawn and you can break them again. Which I found a little surprising when I first came across them, just because, I felt like so excited. I was like, oh, I found a chest, and then it was there again. Oh, yikes. See, we are out of stamina. Alright, I'm going to do a big heal. We need it. Oh, let's talk about experience. I said I would do that. So in the top left, you'll note we have like a jar of brains with a liquid behind it. That liquid is indicative of when you get your next skill point. If you played Sekiro, it's similar to that system. So what will happen is when that brain fluid fills up, which it's almost full now, I'll get a skill point, and below that, that little diamond now says 1. That will switch to 2, which means I have 2 skill points. Those are docked. Now, here comes the interesting thing, because it's a quote-unquote Souls-like, but you do not lose experience, at least as far as I know, when you die. Maybe your sanity goes down. I haven't really noticed, though. So it is not as punishing to die in this game. Other than, of course, you reset to your last bonfire, which is never ideal, but it is certainly different than losing your experience. Another cool thing is notice you have 2 loadouts. So in a game, you can quickly select tab out and have 2 loadouts if you want like a quick and a heavy, or like, whatever it might be. So we just got a new Stone of Dibram, notice now. So now we have 2 heals. Alright. So down here are the docks. We'll go there next. But first we have to find the flesh that will open those up. But now we have the ability to shoot, which I don't want to waste just yet. Always good to break barrels in search of gruel. In my experience, though, it's pretty rare you find stuff actually in the barrels, but they are often blocking paths to find other things, so it's usually worth checking out. These fish monsters, this area is very reminiscent of the DLC area to me from Bloodborne. The fishing hamlet, not just because of the obvious name, like we're in the hamlet now, but in like the fish-based enemies. These skull enemies are elite. Basically, as far as I can tell, they're just stronger. It does warn you in showing their health. Now notice we did get our second skill point, so we've banked that now. Your sanity does seem linked to experience, so I do imagine if it fills, you'd bleed it out. Now, I have not done that yet, but if you notice, the UI seems to suggest it. Very cool ambient music. I did turn it down a little bit in this one. I was hoping to show you all that in the initial version of this. I did. But instead it just made me too hard to hear, which is, I know, annoying for you all. I don't know if you can... Oh, so we'll see about a death here. I tried to parry that worm. So yeah, no experience lost there. But again, I don't really think our sanity even dropped. I'm going to stay low here, though, just to try to get back to that same fence. It's pretty similar to a Souls game, too, in that you can kind of learn the layout, and that's as much of an experience gain as anything. I'll show you how to shoot, actually. Oh. Do as I say, not as I do. Oh, you bastard. This thing's giving me hell. Alright. Oh, yeah, this shaman is a problem. Shoot him at me. You know you want to. Alright, that's the shaman down. So we'll keep making our way around here. Pop another gruel in the hopes we find another. There's a flesh gate lock of some kind. And a gruel. That was a solid repost. You notice, I don't know if it's just in the controller or if the screen shook a little bit, but you do get like a little bit more of a feedback when you get a solid riposte, and you saw it one shot at him instead of still just hitting like a normal attack. So that's the flesh gate down. We don't know where. You will usually find out about the flesh gate and what it's opened for you. When you approach it, it'll kind of break down and move, which I find to be nice because it's a good way for you to not have to memorize. So yeah, did not get the solid riposte. Got the parry, but not the riposte. That was the good one. She kind of does more of a pronounced swing. Let's see, do we have ammo? Yeah. So you get ammo refills here, which will allow me to like shoot. God, not good at shooting. Bink. Now tell me that doesn't look like the whales from Bloodborne. This is our first mini-boss of sorts. Ooh, 2 swings on that one. Boatswain Borga, not to be confused with John Boyega. Beloved actor who plays Finn. Oh, God. That was a bad one. You don't want to do an attack that just leaves you with no stamina, because then you're not going to be able to roll out of the way. Like that. I guess there's no reason not to heal. You can really see the risk reward come into play there of doing the big hit. You run out of stamina and it takes so long to wind up. But fortunately, it's not too bad of a run back. So we'll go ahead and go mess with that guy a little bit more. There's a solid one shot. I'd like to not take damage from these guys, though. They didn't even leave me any gruel, you know? Oh, fuck, I accidentally hit the boss. It's really, for him, mostly not worth doing anything other than light attacks so you can get out. Because that grappling hook attack is just going to hit you too hard. So what I often do is just walk around long enough to regain my stamina, and then go in and get these quick hits and get out. Pink. Like any other Souls boss, it's very much like a dance. Learn the attack patterns and always leave yourself enough stamina to roll away. Yo, did not follow my own advice. Another word of warning for Souls veterans too is that you don't have the ability, as far as I've seen so far, to roll through barrels. So if that is an escape plan for you at a time, treat the barrels like an obstacle. They're going to be in your way. Don't be shy about using your gun. They give it to you for a reason. So we got Borga's logbook, and another nice thing is you notice it tells you what quest that helps progress. So now we know we can take that back to the Widow to turn that into her. And we also have a greatsword, which we're of course going to use because everything goes up except our attack speed. Now later in the game, you will unlock runes that help upgrade your weapons. As far as I've seen, you know, halfway or so through the game, that's the only way to upgrade your actual weapons. There's not like a strength upgrade or anything like that. Are you blocking me? That dude is blocking me. Oh, and right on cue, look, a rune. So the Lesser Rune of Solitude. So you notice right there it adds 10 cold damage to your weapon. You can go over and attach it, and now we've added that, and so our weapon can do a little bit more damage. There's also things like attack speed upgrades, poison, you know, so like other elemental things. So we got one right there, the Greater Rune of Solitude. So it's more cold, and that, I just dropped it by accident. Those can stack. So we can jump in there, we can grab it, put that on. Now we've got even more cold damage. And there's not any animation on your actual sword, but there is an animation when you actually hit the enemy, just to kind of show you that you're doing, or remind you at least, that you're doing that type of damage. I do want to grab this. It tells you the lore of Solia, which is, I think, a really freaking cool area. As far as the story around it. And it's just always good to make sure we get all our items. I just don't want to, you know, not give an honest, full exploration like I did the first time I played it through. I want to show you everything, which is exactly what I did. It's really more convenient for you all, though. This episode's going to be being half the length to see the exact same amount of content, because I'm not spending my time in nooks and crannies and trying to balance, you know, learning about the game at the same time as I show it to you. So the flesh, you'll remember we killed that like blob of flesh. That unlocks this gate for us here, which leads us to our next NPC, which you will see in the next episode. So first, though, you notice our quest, The Longing Widow. that's still on there. But what we can do is actually travel to go to the coast of Solia, which is where we are, and then pick the first of the different. I don't know if they're called like shrines or something, but you don't actually end up at the shrine. You end up at weirdly like the gateways that lead you between the world where that shrine is located. And we'll jump into the lore real quick once we've finished this quest. That book, his journal, may I? Deep down I knew Larsh was gone, but I couldn't bring myself to admit it. When I returned from my stay in Yordael and saw the horrors of the Scourge, I sought hope in Larsh still being on one of his lengthy voyages, unaffected by the sickness. Now I know he wasn't spared, and I know what became of him. You found him and gave him peace. Thank you. He would have been grateful. As for me, I must yearn no more, for I too have found my peace now. And she gives you the Son of Solia, which has a little more attack damage and is a little bit slower than our greatsword. That was a special attack. There's your regular. Now, how many hits does it take to kill a fish monster? Still takes 2, but you can see it's a good amount of the health bar there. And then we'll just run back to the shrine, quickly rest. And then I'll tell you the lore real quick of Solia, and that's where we'll end this first episode. So the feeler gates, just quickly, they are the ones that open up the, different, sort of blobby pathway obstructions. Feeler gates are biological organisms that grow in thick, impenetrable formations. These plant-like creatures have been harnessed by the Gahars as their way of dividing and ruling the kingdom. Abiding only to the will of their masters, the tentacle barriers will not react to anyone else. However, there is a way to get past these imposing walls of tendrils by destroying the often exposed and vulnerable heart of the mechanism. And then this is the lore of Solia, which is super crazy and dark. The once prosperous fishing village of Solia was reduced to a desolate ruin after the strange sickness took over the hamlet. The surrounding sea became devoid of life, while the proud villagers devolved into mindless monsters of the sea. The tragic downfall of Solia and its folk took place around the same time that the malevolent Gahars first arrived in Mornia. Many are of the opinion that the cruel deities are to blame for the port's horrid fate. Nowadays, no outsider dares to travel to the cursed hamlet, nor should they. The only passage between Solia and Old Mornia is a long and treacherous cavern infested with flesh plants and guarded by the rumor has it, an eyeless abomination. So in The Longing Widow, this just recounts the dialogue. I want to say, though, that, the logbook. Most of the pages seem ruined by the damp and fishy mucus, but some parts of the text are still legible. So this is the log from Larsh, the widow's husband. Our voyage has gotten off to a great start. The fish are biting well. The captain ordered a feast for tonight. Nocturnal delirium and shared hallucinations have been tormenting the crew for the past few days. Too much toiling in the sun? Then on page 15, a sailor took his own life. During a vivid fever dream, the crew is horrified. Rumors of a curse are churning. The captain jumped ship during the night. Coward. Crew morale is low. We're running out of food. The sea has turned against us. 6 more men are sick. We're heading back home immediately. We're losing our minds. Only the brief moments of clarity allow me to update my journal. Death would be a boon at this point. So that's it. And then this is the crazy one. I want to show you one about the lore of I think it's the shaman that explains kind of what's so crazy about the place. As a result of being cursed, the shamans of Solia gained the unappealing form of a mutated catfish. Their high level of insight allowed them to stay partly cognizant and not completely devolve into fish, like happened to most others. Unfortunately, to their detriment, this half-witted state allowed them to form a primitive cult which prayed for the return of their exiled leader, Lorn. When Dol Gahar captured Lorn upon his return and removed his eyes, the shamans ordered the whole village have their eyes gouged out. This was done as a token of unwavering solidarity toward their commander. The demented villagers had no will to object, and so their hamlet blinded themselves and supported their tortured leader. Hope you all enjoyed that. Happy note to end on. This is Morbid 7 Acolytes. Again, it's on Steam December 3rd. I'll have a link in the description. It's I think going to probably be like a 10-hour or so game. I played for the Let's Play that you'll see if you want to keep watching. I'm playing through the entire thing. Those episodes will be out every single day. So if you want to see how to beat bosses or where to go next, all that kind of stuff, I'm trying to be as thorough as I can. So those all should be up. But I'm probably 5 or 6 hours in, and maybe have 3 or 4 of the Acolytes down, I think, and there are other bosses around those. So hard to say, but my guess would be about a 10-hour game. 10, 12, something like that. If you're playing as slow as I do, probably closer to 12, 15. But I'm very excited to see the rest of this world, learn more about the lore, learn more about the Gahars, and more about all the cool weapons and combos and runes and of the blessings, which are your way of like upgrading yourself, which that doesn't come till a little bit later. It took me like multiple episodes to find out how you actually got your attribute upgrades. Like you see now I have 4 activity points, or skill points, I mean, and there's nothing I can do with those yet. And for a little bit still. So, but that said, I hope you all enjoyed this one. I absolutely love this game. I was really surprised by it. And if you're interested, like I said, the link is below. I hope you liked this episode. If you did, please hit the like button. It helps out a ton. Let me know in the comments what you think of the game. If you're playing along, who you got stuck on, what you liked best about it. I'd love to hear from you all. And if you want to see more, please subscribe. I'd love to have you around. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.